Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Today we're going to be recapping week number 1 that was in the world of college football. If you have any thoughts on week 1, please feel free to let me know. I'm not going to mention the Sunday night game between FSU and LSU because I gave my thoughts on that game in yesterday's video. But it's funny because they always say the biggest improvement a team can make during the season is always from week 1 to week 2. I've heard that for 30 years probably, but yet we still as fans, not all of us, but most of us, boy, if our team looks good in week 1, oh, we're national champions. And if we struggle in week 1 or lose in week 1, boy, it's going to be a long year. So they tell you not to do it, but almost every fan base has every fan that does that. There are a few that don't, but most of them do. And I've already heard it this year. I've heard 5 or 6 fan bases already after week 1 that if their team looked good Saturday, oh man, we're national champions. And if they struggled or looked bad or lost, oh man, it's going to be a long year. NC State defeated East Carolina by the score of 21-20. And I said last week I thought NC State would win the game, but that it'd be closer than the experts thought, and a 1-point win is about as close as you can possibly get. We also had Iowa, in my opinion, the best game all day long Saturday, defeating South Dakota State by the score of 7-3. And Iowa's 7 points did not come from a touchdown. They had a field goal and 2 safeties. I believe they had 169 yards of total offense in that game. And you know Iowa's got a good defense because last year they were 123rd out of 130 teams in total offense, and they still won 10 games. So if you can win 10 games when your offense is 123rd in the country, you know you've got a good defense. And they won the game 7-3, and ever since that game, everybody that I've talked to about college football, I've told them the best game of the weekend was Iowa. You can call me old school, call me boring, whatever. To me, I love good defensive football, and that game was 2 great defenses head-to-head. South Dakota State is an FCS school. It used to be if an FCS school played an FBS school, you knew right away the FBS school was going to win, and it wasn't going to be close. FBS schools still, for the most part, beat FCS schools, but the games are typically a lot closer, and that was a great game. I wish every game could be just pure out football. Just line up and hit each other in the mouth and play football, not these 7-on-7 drills. Let's just hit each other. That was a good football game. And then we had Houston defeating UTSA by the score of 37-35 in overtime. Arkansas defeated Cincinnati by the score of 31-24. Georgia defeats Oregon by the score of 49-3. If you follow the channel, you know last week when I was talking about those 2 games, I said if you're a Georgia fan or Oregon fan, obviously you're going to watch that game. But if you're a fan of any other team and you just like football, I encourage you to watch Arkansas and Cincinnati. It would be the better game, and of course it was. Now, I knew, and I even said last week that I thought Georgia was going to destroy Oregon, but it was worse than I thought. And anybody that thought the game was going to be close is crazy because, first of all, Oregon's got Bo Nix at quarterback. If Bo Nix was average at Auburn, why is he going to all of a sudden go to Oregon and be a world beater? He's not. So, in my opinion, Oregon's already behind the 8 ball because your starting quarterback is mediocre at best. Oregon doesn't have the running game this year they've had in the past. They don't have the great receivers they've had in the past. They don't have the great defense they've had in the past. So you take all of that into account, and you got a first-year head coach who is a defensive-minded coach with a quarterback who is average at best. And to me, it was lopsided from the get-go. So I thought Georgia would just beat the snot out of them, and they did, but it was worse than I thought. To me, Oregon is maybe a 7-win team this year, 8 at the most. I just don't see it this year for Oregon. North Carolina beat Appalachian State by the score of 63-61, and North Carolina's defense is just otherworldly bad. What's funny is one of the Facebook groups that I follow is a college football group where people just ask random questions. Well, right around 3:45 or 4 o'clock Saturday, somebody posted the question, what was the best thing or the worst thing we had seen so far from all the noon games? And I said, Iowa's defense is otherworldly good, and the Tar Heels defense is otherworldly bad. That is absolutely hideous. Appalachian State scored 40 points in the fourth quarter. So you had the Iowa game that was all defense and the Tar Heel game that was all offense. Everybody thought North Carolina's defense was going to get so much better now that Gene Chizik is there. And it may slowly but surely get a little better as the year goes on. But they've got talent. So their issue is not talent. They've got 4- and 5-star players all over the field on defense. It's just some kind of culture and what they're doing behind the scenes, because you can't have 4- and 5-star players all over the field on defense and your defense suck that bad. That is an absolute embarrassment. But if you like offense, just like I said last week, watch North Carolina, because every game they play is going to have scores just like that one. May not be that high scoring, but it's going to be close. The Tar Heels football games are going to be basketball scores all year long. BYU defeated South Florida 50-21. Right before the season started, I talked about BYU having one of the toughest, if not the toughest schedules I'd ever seen. Ole Miss kicks off life without Matt Corral by defeating Troy by the score of 28-10. USC easily wins the head coaching debut at USC for Lincoln Riley by defeating Rice by the score of 66-14. Kentucky defeated Miami of Ohio 37-13. Florida beat Utah 29-26, an incredible football game. Most people thought Utah would win the game only because we don't really know much about Florida. We know how good Richardson is, but outside of that, we really didn't know a whole lot else. But Florida looked a whole lot better than not just me, but what anybody was expecting in that game Saturday night. And then Ohio State beat Notre Dame 21-10. If I had to pick the most impressive thing from the weekend, to me, it would have been Ohio State's defense, because Ohio State always has an offense. We know that. That's nothing new. Every year, every game, the Buckeyes are going to put up yards and points. But if their defense plays all year long, as good as it played Saturday night, they're going to be tough. I think Notre Dame had 72 yards of offense in the whole second half. If the Buckeyes keep playing like that on defense, they're going to be tough. Bama shut out Utah State. No surprise there, by the score of 55-0 again. Any thoughts on the games from Saturday? Please feel free to let me know. And then last night's game, of course, Clemson won 41-10. And it's funny because, speaking of Facebook, I've got a good friend on Facebook named Jordan Payne that actually yesterday around lunchtime was trying to get predictions for the game. And I didn't say anything because most of the time I don't make predictions. I like to talk about games, but generally I don't really give predictions. And if I do, it's just, hey, so-and-so's going to win. It's not really a score prediction. So I didn't say anything, and then probably, I guess, around 5 o'clock, he messaged me again and said, hey, you got a prediction? And I just had a random score and just gave a random score, and I said 34-10 Clemson. And with about 5 minutes to go in the game, they were up 34-10. And I have given out here and there occasionally random scores, but I have never been 100% right. You know, I'll be close, but never right on. I thought, you know what? If this game ends up being 34-10, I'm going to buy my first ever lottery ticket. But Clemson scored again, so I didn't get it exactly right, but it was close. I think they were like a 21-point favorite. The game was close for a while, but it looked like Clemson's offense was just scared to do anything. And I feel bad for DJ because everybody hates on DJ. But when every single thing you do is 5 yards and in, you really can't blame the quarterback. If the offensive coordinator or whoever's calling the plays is scared to go downfield, that's not the quarterback's fault. The quarterback doesn't make the play calls. They just do what they're told. And as the game went on, by halftime, I was like, man, this is embarrassing. I never in the whole time thought, man, Clemson's going to lose this game. I knew they were going to win the game, but I expected this year, with all the talk about bringing a new coordinator on offense, they would open it up some. And they threw one pass downfield the whole first half. But as the game went on, they started going downfield more and more. And DJ ended up with 208 passing yards, which was pretty good. He had 3 balls that were thrown right on the money, and they were just dropped. Or he could have had probably close to 300 yards passing, but he looked really good. When they started opening up the offense, he played really good. They just struggled running the ball, which was a surprise. I thought they'd run the ball pretty easily. They didn't. They struggled for most of the game to run the ball. But if DJ can play the way he played last night, we'll see very little Cade Klubnik in meaningful situations throughout the year. So Georgia Tech looked better than I thought. I know 10 points is still not very good, but they actually played pretty good for the most part. I mean, they were outmatched. They had no chance to win the game, but they did play really good, and Jeff Sims looked really good at quarterback as well. Any thoughts on any of the games, please feel free to let me know. We'll talk about week 2 in college football coming up later on in the week. But let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. What do you call a fish wearing a bow tie? Sophisticated. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.
I never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of emotion. Got my statement, and I'm reading it slow so I can understand it fully. Appreciate my standing, go out of this world and right on time. Oh, never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this. I'm far away from Earth and I wanna know if you exist. Mission control, do you read me? Send me my coordinates lately. Mission control, am I drifting? Tie me to someone who will love me, yeah. Wait, I think I'll last a bit longer. Find another reason to breathe this air.